Good morning, everyone, and welcome to D.I.V.E, Diversity, Including Various Ethnicities. I am Iris Owens, your host, and my co-host on the line with me. Good morning, Jessica. How are you?
I am doing wonderful, wonderful. Happy spring.
Yes,
Is it
happy
spring? It is
spring.
spring.
It is spring.
Happy spring break. Happy April. April, April showers
Absolutely.
bring May flowers. We are
Yes,
here. We made
absolutely.
it to April.
And
So
so, guys,
I'm
we
glad
have,
to be here with you today.
and I'm so happy that you are here with us today. We have a awesome guest with us today that is joining us, and Jermaine is going to talk to us today about um, all things inspections, right? And so this is something
Mhm.
that we need, but we wanted to remind you all that, of course, April is the month of fair housing. And so if you are
Yes.
not familiar with what fair housing means, fair housing is an act that was put in place in 1968 to start to deal with the discrimination, housing discrimination as it related to African Americans and people of color. And so fair housing basically protects a home buyer from discrimination, whether they're renting, getting a mortgage, whether they're buying, whether they're looking for housing assistance. And so that protects a certain class. It protects classes up, and that prevents discrimination based on race, color, sex, national origin, religion, disability, and familiar status. And also, we added sexual identity. You cannot discriminate on that based on that either. So we want to get started today and share some information. So Jermaine, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so
Yes.
excited. And so it's your game today. So we just want to find out, like, why does a person need to get an inspection, and why should you not buy a home without one?
Right. Thanks for
Exactly.
having me on. Thanks for asking that question. So I'm the owner of Get It Done Home Inspections. Just give you a little bit of background. We're a full service home inspection company over here in Georgia. We serve Atlanta, Macon, Columbus, basically I'm turning off. Most of northern, central, and middle Georgia. We don't really do too much in the southern parts, like
Mhm.
Valdosta and Augusta. But like when I say full service, we do home inspections, we do commercial inspections, we do radon testing, mold testing, radon mold, sewer scopes. We do a lot. Got a host of services to kind of let you know exactly what's
Uh-huh.
wrong with the property. I will say this: so the standard inspection is going to be just a basic inspection, just to make sure it's not anything too serious. That's what most people go with. But I would say the purpose of the inspection is to kind of get into the home, just to figure out if there's any major issues. Um, and what was the second part of that question?
And no, and why should you not buy a home without having
Right,
doing, even if you're a cash buyer? Because
right,
sometimes when people are doing, in this market right now, we have individuals who are buying and therefore going appraisals and
absolutely.
inspections.
Oh,
You
yeah,
advise that.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah,
Mhm.
definitely you're making an important purchase. So it's one of the most expensive purchases of most people's lives. So you definitely want to just have an expert look at that house and just make sure you kind of know what you're getting into.
Hmm.
There's a number of things that can go wrong, from the roof all the way down to the foundation. It can be mold, it can be plumbing issues. So you want to have an expert or somebody that's knowledgeable to kind of come in and just at least get you that information so you know what you're kind of partaking in. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Exactly. Now, I'm going to speak a little bit from experience. I have worked with Jermaine on multiple transactions. And as a realtor, I can honestly say Jermaine is a blessing and a curse. And the reason I say, Iris, you laugh because you already know where I'm going.
I know where
Jermaine
you're
is a
going. I
blessing
know.
and a curse
Jermaine, we
because,
we like you, but we have to.
Right.
and the reason why I say that, and the reason why I say that as a realtor,
Yeah.
Jermaine is a blessing because he is so thorough. He is so thorough. Jermaine is going to catch things that the naked eye is not going to catch, that the
Right.
amateur eye is not going to catch, that
Hmm.
some professional eyes have not caught. Let's be clear.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
with that being said, it can be a curse, because now puts me as the realtor back into a situation where I have to go and play hardball on behalf of my client, who has been blessed with the referral of Jermaine Jackson. I'm just saying. So for those individuals who have ever thought about not doing an inspection, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're really doing yourself an injustice, because
Absolutely.
a lot of times, I mean, even with new construction, I've had buyers say it's brand new, it's nothing wrong with it. I beg to differ.
Right.
We have found major issues with new construction. We have found major issues with newly renovated properties. You know,
Yes.
things of that nature. So again, every inspector is not created equally.
Correct. That's
Therefore,
very true.
you want to do your research when choosing an inspector, just like you do your research when choosing a realtor, because every inspector is not created equally. Jermaine is one of the ones where I love to use him. Has not disclosed what needs to be disclosed. Jermaine is going to find it.
Right.
So blessing and curse, but I use them every single time.
Right.
Blessing and curse, but I use them. But yeah, that's the thing that we need to take away today. All inspectors are not created equally.
That's very true.
So Jermaine, when you say the basic inspection, what is included in a basic inspection?
So basic inspection is going to be just roof, foundation, siding, and then once you go in, you look at the appliances, you make sure everything's functioning properly, make sure there's no huge electrical issues, and some of the cosmetic stuff too. We kind of just point out some of that stuff too, because a lot of cosmetic stuff can become a major issue if it's a ton of it, right? So that's the basic inspection. So there are some things that aren't covered in a standard inspection. You know that's why we try to offer those services. So like something like the sewer scope. So typically what a home inspector does is just run the plumbing, make sure it doesn't back up into the sinks, toilets, and tubs. And that's pretty much it. So, but if you want to go further than that, you have to add a service to where we can scope the line, we can see inside that sewer system or the sewer line, just to make sure there's nothing that's unforeseen, going on, like a cracked plumbing line or root intrusion. Also, with radon, a lot of people don't know about radon. So radon is not part of a standard inspection, but it's very important in Georgia, especially because it's in the soil and it can get inside your home. And it's one of the leading causes of lung cancer for non-smokers in Georgia. Actually nationwide. So 21,000 people a year die from lung cancer and they don't even smoke. And they believe that radon is one of those leading causes for that. And so there's a ton of things that can actually be a part of a house, but you have to add different services to kind of cover that base. Like you want the radon, mold too. Mold is a good example. So I will say, so I do a free visual mold inspection where I just kind of look for it. If I smell it, I can go into a basement and kind of it'll start hitting my senses. I got a real sensitive like nose and like sinuses and stuff like that. So we can kind of look for it, but if it's not visible, we can't say much, right? So that's why we come in with an air quality test. Some of the inspectors, they'll do air quality testing like myself, where we got a pump that kind of pumps the air into a lab cartridge. We send that cartridge to a lab. They test it and see if it's invisible mold or something that we couldn't detect with the eye. So I will say, a lot of people just are really concerned with just a basic inspection because it can get expensive adding on to different services. But I do try to encourage people when I can. If I see something that's, that kind of stands out, like, hey, you may need additional testing for this. Like, you may want to do the mold test just to see if this stuff is harmful. You may want to do radon. I tell people in northern parts of Georgia, hey, you definitely probably want to get radon. Now, McDonough, Fairburn, Jackson, all those places may not be as bad as opposed to Sandy Springs or Dawsonville or Alpharetta. So you may not need the radon. It depends on where you are.
Would it matter? Because sometimes people believe, as Jessica said, like with new construction, you would assume this is new construction. There could not possibly be anything wrong. does it matter the year or not the year, but the age of the home that you
Nope.
are possibly looking at to purchase? And though it may look very sparkly and shiny, especially if it's been renovated or completely, as someone would say, taken down to the studs,
Yeah.
explain that, because I think sometimes buyers need to understand, and sellers, what that means if you've done renovation on a home that may be older and has never had to be it was never discussed about what could be in the home.
Right. So that's another thing too. I seen them on both sides. Like I just did I had a client, an investor client that bought a property where it was pretty bad. So the homeowner, I don't want to disclose too much information, but the homeowner had a mental breakdown. There was he kind of destroyed the property on the inside. He damaged all the drywall. He was storing food and other items all across the house. So it had a bunch of mold. So I get out there and it's infested with mold. And so this investor came in, ripped it out, new drywall, new flooring. Pretty much made it look brand new, right? So, but then I realized he didn't do anything with the air ducts. So air ducts were still flowing. So that would be a possibility of a situation where somebody's moving into a home and the air quality is going to be poor because they didn't clean the ducts in the system. They didn't properly clean and sanitize the air system, HVAC. So you just never know what you're kind of walking into. But like to your point, like it can be a number of things, like especially with new construction, it can be situations where like there's mold and you may not know about it, or you may have seen it during the construction process and they may not have taken care of it before they, wrap the house and do all the drywall and things like that. So it's just a number of things that can lead to, bad results for the client. So you kind of you can't really trust anybody. We're all human. We all make mistakes. So you want to try to figure out as much as possible.
And I will say, one of the things as a realtor that I have seen that has been very disheartening, and it happens a lot sometimes with investment properties, where you see this total rehaul of this, home that's been standing for 100 years. It's been standing for 60 years. And the outside and the inside looks fabulous, right? And it's gorgeous. You're like, oh my God, I could see myself living here. And then you have an inspection. And I remember there was a home in Atlanta. This home was fabulous. I took my clients to see it. We went under contract on this home. It turns out that this home, first of all, they put in all these beautiful reset lights and, everything was fabulous. But the same electrical panel that was there from 1928 was still there. Nothing had been wired. So it had not there been an inspection, they would have never known that. And then the house was literally sitting on a cinder block. These are things that from the naked eye, you can't see that. And so it's important that those are values to you as a buyer. That's very important to do these things, to have an inspection before you purchase. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And to your point, let me speak on that. Let me speak on that too, real quick. So that's one of the renovated homes is going to be one of the most surprising, but also, like you said, some of the weirdest stuff. So I work with some investors. I try to encourage them to stick to properties that they can afford to renovate. So that you don't want to, if you're a new investor, you probably don't want to do a 100-year-old home or even a 50-year-old home, because you're looking at new siding, you're looking at new electrical, you're looking at new plumbing, you're looking at a host of other things like asbestos, mold, things like that. So we kind of encourage them to kind of stay towards a newer house. You don't have to upgrade the electrical. Like we see that where we see them in a situation where they try to do the best they can, to be honest, with their budget, but the house falls short of not only the client's expectations, the inspector, but also even the buyer. So you know, the
Right.
I mean, the realtors too. So it's just unfortunate. We try to encourage them to kind of stick to what you can afford to renovate. Don't
Right.
get too in above your head. But yeah,
Right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and that was something I was going to add just for those listening, especially if you're a buyer.
Yeah.
There's always a seller's property disclosure that is provided to you when you're looking for a home and buying a home from a seller.
Yeah.
But many times on investment properties, they will say, we know nothing about the home, which makes them believe or makes you believe that because they never lived in the home, that they know
Yeah.
nothing about it. And that is not true. That is actually not legal enough. They have to provide you a seller's disclosure. That's real important. Never buy a home if no one can tell you nothing about this home. That's
Yeah.
really, really important, you know? And again,
Right.
having that inspection will help answer those questions that someone is telling you that they have no information about. That's very, very important.
Absolutely.
So Jessica, what other questions do you have or what do you want to share? Because you've done work with this gentleman and you recommend him very highly.
Thank you, Jessica.
I do. I know. Y'all hear the noise. I am on
Yes.
vacation. So
Yeah.
I was muting myself so you didn't have to hear this noise.
Okay, then
But
I'll
Jermaine,
ask
can
the other
Is it
question.
like a loudspeaker or something?
yeah, the cruise director is talking. But can you tell them about the pricing?
Oh yeah. All right.
Yes.
So cool. Let's go into the pricing. So typically, you know, it kind of depends on what part of the country you're in, but usually in Georgia, our expenses are going to be about, on average, $300 to $400. For the smaller properties, you can go lower. Sometimes, like condos, you can probably find somebody to do them between, you know, $200 and $250. But they can go up too. Like on the other end of that spectrum could be something super expensive. So like I've done 10,000 square feet homes where I charge $2,000. So it kind of just depends on how much work is involved, what services you offer, and how big it is, pretty much. But yeah, standard in Georgia is going to be about between $300 and $400.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
another
normally
thing,
when my
go ahead.
clients ask, normally I've had when my clients have asked me in reference to, well, how much, how much is an inspection?
Yeah.
Because I've worked with Jermaine so much, I'm able to give them that range. And I also explain to them it's all based on square footage. You
Yes.
know, the bigger the house, the larger the higher the
Yes.
price. So,
Right.
they are fully aware of that on the front end. I like to let my buyers know that in the buyer inspection so that there is no unexpected fees. I want
Yeah.
them to know that, you're going to have to pay that appraisal in the event that the lender has not already informed you. You're going to have to pay for that inspection, because I am not a realtor that's going to be okay with you not wanting an inspection. I'm going to push for an inspection because I feel like you need to have that it's just an added security of knowing what you're purchasing. So,
Absolutely.
with that being said, I do appreciate that. One thing I do also appreciate about you, Jermaine, is that you take the time to actually answer the questions with the buyers. You have no problem with the buyer being there with you, to ask
Right.
certain questions, and you literally take your time to explain certain things and show it to them. And I have had a lot of feedback from my buyers saying that, oh my God, Jermaine was amazing. He took his time. He was patient. I didn't feel rushed. I didn't feel like I was bothering him. So for that, I want to say thank you, because I get that a lot from my buyers.
Yes.
And especially these first-time home buyers, they're nervous. And you
I
give
know.
them that added sense of security. So
Thank
you
you.
for that.
And it's also an
Absolutely.
opportunity if the buyer, I always say, like, buyers will say, should I be there for the entire inspection? And I will tell them, you can, but I actually advise them to say, let the inspector get through the majority of the inspection and then go
Yeah.
at the end, and then they will walk you through. So they don't just give you, this document now with all the things that they have discovered and
Yeah.
not giving you explanation. I think that's and it's the best time for you. If you are going to purchase this home, you get to know where everything is in your home. Think about that.
Right.
because no one typically walks you through that to let you know where the shutoff valve is, and you know where the HVAC is, and how do you get to the units to change the filters, because sometimes
Change the air filter.
they're right. Sometimes they're in the attic.
Yep.
Sometimes they're in the basement. It just depends.
Or
So I
crawl
think
space.
it's a great opportunity for you to walk through this home that you are about to purchase and know where everything is. And you have that information to always go back to and to refer to, which I think having an inspection is the greatest thing you can do for yourself. It's like because the inspection also reminds you to change filters. When's the last time your units were updated? When's the last time they were serviced? All those things. Or when you should
Did you
expect.
know that a hot water heater is supposed to be flushed?
Yes. Yes.
A lot of buyers do not know that.
They do not
A
know
lot of
that.
homeowners do not know that.
Absolutely.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things you learn. Things you learn. Things you
Or,
And
learn.
or that
gutters,
you
like,
need
you can't
to
even
go
stop.
check your air conditioning pan as well. Because when you see if there's too much condensation and you start seeing leaking water, you're like, what's leaking?
Yeah.
Where's that coming from?
Even gutters. I had a client the other day. He been in the house like 10 years, and thank God it was a nice house that wasn't by any trees. But he said he never knew about gutters. I was like, yeah, you gotta
Wow.
service your gutters, make sure they're clean. You know, to keep that water away from the foundation.
Yeah,
So it's a lot
absolutely.
of a lot
That
of stuff.
that
Jermaine,
is. Go ahead, Jessica.
I can only imagine what all you've seen, but if you don't mind, can you tell us
Oh, yeah.
one or two of the craziest things you have come across while inspecting property?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the one thing that kind of stands out would be it's a government foreclosed home. So I was in McDonough, and the home had been seized by the government. And so I get out there. I was able to get in. I'm in awe about the property because it's a beautiful home. Like I'm looking at it like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. I think it could probably cost about, even with the seizure and stuff, I think it still wanted like 600K or something like that.
Wow, nice.
But
home.
it looked like $1 million home. You know, a lot of times when they confiscate these properties, they don't want the exact, value of it. They just want what's owed or whatever. And so I get into the basement and I'm looking at the theater room, and I just start smelling something, and I see a lot of dust. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, why is it so dusty in here? And so I finally get to one closet, and it was a water heater closet. And when I opened that door, it was water everywhere. And so basically what I kept seeing was mold. So it was mold. I call it a mold storm, because I was disturbing them. I was disturbing the mold, and it was just like floating around me and stuff. And I was like, oh my God. So I had to run out of the house, get my respirator mask, and then come back and do my inspection. So yeah, so that property probably had maybe a $50,000 mold remediation situation going on, because nobody knew it was leaking in the basement. And it probably had been doing that for 6 months.
So Jermaine, that you bring up a good point. When we are going into homes, right? We are not mold experts, and but there is a distinct odor that we tend to associate, I will say that, with what we believe to be mold, right?
Yeah, like a moist,
Yeah, that moisture, and it's very poignant. Like it'll start to sting the nose and irritate your sinuses, right?
Yep.
So when we are looking at a home like so for me, a lot of times I will say, I think we need to step back outside. Right. Or if you're gonna go into this home, you need to go get a mask.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we understand, even as realtors, what we're exposing ourselves to and what we're exposing our clients to. Like, I think that it takes we have to take a sense of responsibility to protect our clients as well, because they don't know, right?
Exactly.
And they'll walk in and say, oh, what's that smell? And of course, we don't ever want to make someone be deterred from a property, but we do need to protect them when we are showing properties.
Absolutely.
So what would you suggest? What would you suggest how we handle that? Because like you're saying, you thought this was dust, and you realized that you were disturbing the atmosphere.
Right. So I'm actually working on an ebook. I'm gonna do a free ebook for realtors, just to kind of, it's like gonna be the top 5 to 10 things to kind of pay attention for.
Oh, wow,
But that was
that's
one of
awesome.
them.
I
Yeah,
love
that
that.
was one of them though. Make sure you have a mask, a flashlight. We don't want you to be inspectors, but we want you to be able to kind of see some of these things. I was
Right.
in a house. I was in a house the other day, and the realtor had been in it as well. The clients, but they didn't see mold either. It was mold all on the doors, but you had to like shine your light like to get a real good picture of it. So we want to. I just want to prepare realtors with some tools or some ideas and tips on what to kind of look
Absolutely.
for. Like, so I tell a lot of the realtors that I work with that you want to just look at the water heater. Like, just look at the water heater because you don't want to see that gray piping. I'm sure Jessica knows about it. It's that polybutylene piping. So polybutylene piping is not a defect. It's in millions of homes. However, it's a very fragile pipe that caused a lot of problems back in the 90s. And so there are still millions of homes out there right now that have polybutylene piping. And so I just kind of let people know, like, hey, look at the water heater. If you see gray pipe, then that'll let you know that that's going to probably have to be addressed. So that's going to come back as a major red flag for most inspectors, even if it hasn't leaked in the past, even if it's not leaking currently. Where most of us going to call it out and say, hey, so that can be a deal killer for some people. Like, they don't want to replace something like that. So you at least want to be able, when you're showing the houses, to say, hey, oh, it's got that polybutylene. Let me see if the sellers would even entertain the idea of having it replaced. It can run you $3,000 to $10,000 depending on how big, where it is, and the orientation of the house. So I just want to, help out realtors that way, because I've had some realtors get kind of upset with me or my report, and I just kind of want to encourage them or, empower them.
That's where it comes in, that it's a blessing. And
right.
They're like, you killed the whole deal.
Look, but I want them to be able to say, hey, okay, look, this got polybutylene. I'm ahead of it. I can find out.
Right.
As opposed to finding out after the customer, then put it, y'all put a contract in, the customer pays inspection. Why not find out some of this stuff beforehand?
Right.
So I'm working on that. I'll have those ready.
Save them some time and money.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So that's the question I
have.
have.
I've had customers do 5 inspections. Yep.
You said you've had customers to do.
Oh, man, go ahead.
No, you said you've had customers to do what?
Yeah, I've had customers do several inspections. I had customers do, I had one customer, she did like 6 inspections.
Oh, wow.
So it can be kind of disheartening to pay for inspections, plus any add-on services, plus appraisals and things like that. That can be really expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's always a question that comes up. Who pays for the home inspection and who has rights to it?
Yeah, so definitely it's gonna be the client, whoever pays. So 9 times out of 10 is gonna be the client.
Right.
I've had a couple, realtors that paid for them on their behalf, but yeah, 90% of the time it's gonna be the client or the investment property, person that's buying the property. And so, but yeah, they're willing to share it with everybody else, and that's pretty cool too.
Right. And that was the thing. They have the right, they have the ability to say, no, I'm not willing to share it with you. They can, when they are, negotiation, inspection does help with negotiation, right?
Yep.
So if you say I'm gonna move forward with these things that I have found these things that are challenges with the home, you do have the ability to share the things that have been found that could be major issues, that are very costly issues from the inspection. However, as the buyer, you paid for the inspection. You do not owe anything to the seller to have to give it to them, or to the listing agent, who will sometimes request and ask, well, why can't you just share it? You don't have to. They don't have the right to even ask for it. You can share the parts of the report that are needed, but they are not, it is your report and it's yours to keep. And if you want to give it to the sellers, you can sell it to them.
Yeah.
If you decide to move on and not purchase the home, you can definitely tell them, if you would like it, I am more than happy to sell it to you, but you should not give it to them because it's something that you have paid for.
Right.
Exactly. And I get a couple of those calls.
Jermaine, while we have you, Can you also touch on a re-inspection? Like
Oh yeah.
once we've had the
Mm,
initial inspection, the realtor
mhm.
has now, gone back and negotiated on the behalf, and the sellers has fixed certain things, and you come back to make sure it has been done. Can you
Oh
touch
yeah,
on that
definitely.
for us? Briefly for our buyers that may be listening.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's not very popular. A lot of people don't order re-inspections, but we are here to re-inspect the re-inspect re-inspect the property for you. Typically what we do is what have you guys agreed to on the what was it, the amendment to correct? What do y'all call that?
Yes, amendment.
Yeah, address. Yeah. So whatever y'all
Yeah.
agree on
To
that, we
address
come out,
concerns or, yeah,
address the
concerns with the
current. Yeah.
property.
And
Mm-hmm.
so we come out and we double check to make sure those items are in fact completed correctly. I would probably say, like I said, most people don't order the re-inspection, and most of the time, people that do, everything hasn't been done. So it's always an issue. So I mean, I always recommend, getting the re-inspection because a lot of times people aren't being straightforward and having good faith and fixing the stuff that you guys agreed to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely. And now, then the cost is usually a lot cheaper. So I do $100 re-inspections, and then sometimes it's cheaper than that if it's just like one or two items.
Okay.
In my yeah. So we just come out, double check those items, and make sure they're done.
Although
So,
a minor fee,
go ahead.
it is yet again another
Yeah,
sense of security, because
yeah,
just
Mm-hmm.
because they said they got it done, like you said, you have seen it wasn't done.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
for $100 for an extra, security blanket, I
Mm-hmm.
take it. I
Or a
take it
hundred
every day of
dollars
the week.
worth
So
versus 100,000 or a
Right,
thousand.
right.
exactly, exactly.
Right. I
And
think
we talk
I
about let's
think
talk
it's
about.
definitely worth it.
I think you talked about Iris. You talked about what was it? The negotiations part, right?
Yes.
So I've been using repair price. I don't know if some realtors are familiar with. Are you guys familiar with repairpricer.com
Is
at
that
all?
where it gives the report and then you give a listing of different the estimated cost of what these things
Yeah,
could be? Yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we've been offering that for our clients too, and it kind of it shows you overall, like when you talk about home inspections, I would probably say the average house you're going to save that client I would probably say between five and $50,000. So I've had some repair
Mm-hmm.
prices come back at 30, 40 grand, 50 grand.
Mm.
A fairly new home, you can come pretty low, like $1,000. So it all depends. I think we think definitely think that that's a good service to offer or have for your
Absolutely.
client. Kind of helps you guys with negotiations and let them know. But it also shows the value of your home inspector too. Like, man, you only paid $300-400 for the inspection, but you're gonna save me, 10 grand on this house. And I really like it. And they can probably use that money, towards that house, or buying that house. Yeah.
Question I never thought about before. Would you
Mhm.
recommend someone like, so let's just say you move into a older home and you do
Yeah.
renovations on that home.
Yeah.
Would you then recommend that person to then do an inspection while they're still living in that home after that work has been done? Because I never thought about that before, but
Absolutely. So there's a couple things we do. So the homeowner, if they're doing an inspection, they're hiring a general contractor to come to their house. Before you pay that general contractor, have an inspector come out and just take a look. And it's usually not a full inspection fee. I do those for like $200, something like that. Come out. Let's say they're renovating your basement. We come out and we make sure they're doing everything up to par with their basement. Now, you typically, I think with basements, you may have to pull a permit. So
Mhm.
a lot of times when you're renovating, you're adding walls or manipulating walls, you usually have to pull a permit. If you have a county inspector come, then you may not need, a regular inspector. But we kind of look for different things. So I definitely recommend those. And
Mhm.
then even with investors, I tell my investor clients before you close out those different drawers, so you got to pay before you pay off your electrician, let
Right.
somebody come out and check his work. Once the roofer, everybody, the drywall person, because once you pay them and then you list the house 6 months later
You
and you
can't
find
go
out
back to
you
the
can't go back to them. They moved on to the next job. Like,
Yes.
they're not answering your call. So before you
Yes.
pay them, have somebody come out, double check their work, because a lot of these people are doing subpar work. They're
Yes.
not doing the standard, and so it's gonna cost you if you don't get them to fix it.
Thank you. Because like I said, I was just thinking about that. I was like, man, if you're gonna do work on your house, you should definitely, I would think you should have someone have an inspector come out and have an inspection done to make sure that it, again, like you said, it was not subpar work, it's done correctly. And what they said they were doing, they actually did it, and you get it before they leave, and then you find out, oh my God, you didn't pat something back the way it was supposed to be, and now the roof is leaking, or
Exactly.
the basement's flooded and there's mold growing in our basement because hey.
Exactly. I talked to one of my clients about that.
Exactly.
I asked one of my general contractor clients, I was like, are you talking to your customers about waterproofing the basement? He was like, no. I was like, somebody behind me. Oh, you're good. And I was like, man, you got to talk to your clients about waterproofing, because some of these clients are moving into the house and they're immediately renovating. So they don't know if the basement has water entry or water intrusion issues. Mm-hmm. So you definitely want to at least bring that up to them, get it waterproof. That way they're not calling you in 3 months when it flooded and they're blaming you because, all the drywall's wet and they got mold.
Right.
So it's just a lot of information. We just try to help out everybody we can and try to make sure the homeowners are going to be, be in a better position.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you know what? I really appreciate you, Jermaine, taking the time out to discuss inspections with us. I want to allow you a quick moment to tell us a little bit about some of the extra things that you have going on. I know you're now also teaching classes to others who are interested in becoming inspectors. Because I'm gonna give you a little brief moment to plug your classes. Okay. And should realtors take this class?
No, it's mainly for people, unless you want to be an inspector.
That requires getting down. That requires going into some spaces I'm sure I'm not comfortable with. So no.
Yeah, I'm not doing the crawl spaces, Jermaine. I'm gonna leave you to that, okay?
But look, they got remote control cars for that. They got the remote control crawlers. They got. So you don't have to get into the crawl spaces. I tell you, technology.
Just cut out vocal like this. Wait, what?
I like the gadget.
The technology you can avoid certain things. I like roofs. At one point I was afraid of heights, but I get on roofs, but I don't get on those 2-story roofs because they're too tall. Okay. So I use my drone. So like with technology, you're able to kind of avoid some of those things that you may have been fearful of. But just to tell you about the course, it's an online course. It's learn at your own pace, everything video. It's only right now, I think the cost is $400, but basically it's like a fast track course introducing the world of home inspections to people that want to learn about it as a career. So to be honest, 5 years ago, I didn't know anything about a home inspection. Like I never knew it existed because I always rented homes. My mom and dad didn't hire an inspector when I was born. They bought the house before I was born. So I had never known about it until one of my friends, he got a home inspection. He bought a house and he had one done. And so that's how I kind of learned what it was, the money they made. It's great money, stuff like that. So it's just me introducing, that to people that want to learn about it. It's a great career. It is a demanding career. It can be dirty. It can be dangerous, but you try to mitigate all those situations and by keeping yourself safe and being smart. But it's online. Like if anybody's interested, they can go to my, probably my Instagram page and go to my link tree and stuff, and they can get all the information on that. It's gonna be get it done. So get it done at get it done, but it's everything underscore. So get underscore it underscore done underscore home underscore inspections. I gotta change that. It's too long.
Okay, so awesome. So buyers can reach out to you. Let's just say their realtor does not know Jermaine Jackson. Buyers can reach out to you, to utilize your services. Of course, realtors that may be watching should be using your services. And as a realtor, I am wholeheartedly 100% backing you because you are very much, you're thorough. You know what you're doing and you get it done. It's in the name. Get it done.
Right, get it done. I love it.
So right. it is in the name. So buyers can reach out to you. Realtors, of course, can always, utilize your services. Again, we're gonna link all of his contact information
Absolutely.
below. So anybody that's in the business right now of purchasing a home, make sure you get an inspection done. That's
Absolutely.
what we want to leave you with. Make sure you get an inspection done. Now, Iris, we have brought them from the point of finding a realtor to getting the correct lending to
Yes.
now inspection. Like we're
Yes.
we're bringing them all the way to the
Yes,
closing
we
table.
are.
We're almost there. But
Yes, we are.
inspections are so important.
They are.
And Jermaine, again, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out today to be with us.
Absolutely.
I know you probably are outside your next property that you're gonna have to go
Yep.
and get it done. But I do appreciate you for taking the time out to be with us today. Iris,
I
as
appreciate
always,
y'all. I appreciate
it's
y'all
a
working around my
privilege.
time.
It's a
You
privilege.
know, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. I
thank you,
appreciate you guys
Jermaine.
allowing
Oh,
me on. Yeah,
As
definitely.
Jessica said,
listen.
ditto to everything. Really appreciate you with the education that you have provided us today. That was
Oh
amazing.
yeah.
And
You're welcome.
again, some thoughts
Thank
came up that I didn't even think about before. So I hope
Right.
that you all gained some nuggets from this today, and we will make sure that you have all the information to be able to get in touch with Get It Done with Jermaine Jackson. Thank you all so much for joining us today.